For today, we are going to be doing a 3 round mock draft. Last week, we did a 2 round mock draft, and I'm trying to do a mock draft every week. And in order to really switch things up before the combine and the off season, I feel like just adding more rounds kind of just changes things up a little bit. And we do have 100 picks to get through because it is a 3 round mock draft. So I am going to try to go through some of these picks a little faster than I normally do, especially the top end picks like in the first round. So if you want to hear more explanation of why I have certain players going to certain teams early in the draft, make sure to watch the second round mock draft and even the end of season mock draft if you want that more in-depth explanation, just because I'm going to make a lot of similar picks, and because there's 100 picks, I don't want to over explain every single pick and have this be like a 2 hour long video. So again, if you want that other explanation, go check out the previous mock drafts. But with the first pick, I think it's pretty consensus at this point. We're gonna go Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. They need their franchise quarterback. They got it at number 1 overall with Mendoza. Jets at 2. I'm gonna keep having them go with Arvell Reese without a guy like Dante Moore in the draft. They kind of just have to go best player available. I think you could easily argue that is Arvell Reese. Cardinals at 3. They need help on the offensive line desperately, so I'm going to go Maui Goa to the Cardinals at 3. They could go with a guy like Jeremiah Love or even just best defensive player available, but their quarterback's not going to be Kyler, but whoever it is, they need to keep them protected. So I like Maui Goa at 3. Titans, I'm going to continue to go Ruben Bain, similar with the Jets, just best player available, or one of the best players available. The Giants at 5, once again, I am going to go Carnell Tate. I think they go one of the two receivers, Tate or Tyson. I mean, I guess they could go Makai Lemon as well, but I think Tate ends up being the first receiver off the board just because he's an Ohio State receiver. They seem to work out pretty well for the most part. Browns at 6, they will take the second receiver off the board in Jordan Tyson. They don't really need much on offense. They need a lot on, or much on defense. They need all their attention, or most of their attention, on the offensive side of things. He's probably, outside of Jeremiah Love, but they don't really need a running back. He's probably the best defensive player or offensive player on the board. The Commanders at 7, they need help on defense desperately. They need pass rush and safety help. So I'm going to go Caleb Downs once again out of Ohio State, the clear best safety available, and probably the only safety that will end up going in the first round. The Saints at 8, I think it's between David Bailey or Jeremiah Love, but they have a lot of young running backs. They still have Kamara, so I think they go more defense. Cam Jordan's getting up there in age. I think they need his future replacement, so I'm going to go David Bailey from Texas Tech to the Saints at 8. Chiefs, I'm going to keep giving them Jeremiah Love. They need that explosiveness on offense in the backfield because Pacheco and Kareem Hunt not only aren't the best running back room, but they're both free agents. And I know the Chiefs are potentially connected to or rumored to, or people are picking them to get guys like Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, or Brees Hall. I think if a guy like Jeremiah Love falls to you at 9, you take him and you spend that money elsewhere if you're the Chiefs. The Bengals at 10, they have to go defense. Seems pretty obvious. There, you could go Sony Styles, corner, and get Delane or McCoy, but I like Peter Woods to them. They really need help in the run game. I feel like if you want to build a good defense, it has to start in stopping the run. Because if you can stop the run, it makes everything else easier. So I think if the Bengals want to build this defense up, they have to start with trying to improve their run defense. Not that Peter Woods is the best run defending D lineman, but that D line position, just the not necessarily run defense, but just improve the start up front when improving your defense. So that's why I went Peter Woods. Dolphins at 11, they need cornerback really bad. Best corner available, in my opinion, is Mansour Delane. I think it makes perfect sense for the Dolphins to get corner. Cowboys at 12, again, Sony Styles, one of the best players on the board. Cowboys need a lot of help on defense, especially at edge and linebacker after trading away Micah Parsons, and they just don't really have a lot of linebacker to begin with. So Sony Styles, I think, is a perfect fit. Similar to the Cowboys, they need to stop the run, and just getting guys in the D line and front 7 can help with that, on top of Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams. The Rams at 13, they need corners so bad. McCoy is right here for them. I like McCoy to the Rams at 13. I've had him go there. I've had just corner in general go to the Rams, but with Mansour Delane going to Miami, McCoy ends up falling to them in most of the drafts. Ravens at 14, I've gone with Kai Lemon here before. I've gone pass rusher. I'm going to go back to the pass rusher route, and I'm going to go Keldrick Folk. It's a toss-up between him and Cassius Hall as to who the better pass rusher is, in my opinion. I'm not too sure, but I think they go pass rusher or Makai Lemon. So I'm going to go pass rusher because their best pass rusher is really old Kyle Van Noy. I think they need some youth in that pass rush room. Bucks at 15, another team that I have going pass rusher. I'm going Cassius Howell to the Buccaneers at 15. Again, they need help on that pass rush position. Jets at 16. Now, I've had them take Makai Lemon when he's been on the board, but when he wasn't on the board, I had them go elsewhere. I think Caleb Banks. But Makai Lemon's on the board. You need, whoever your quarterback's going to be, you need to give him somebody to throw to that's not named Garrett Wilson. So I'm going to go Makai Lemon because he's on the board. Lions at 17. I've been giving them corners, but last mock draft I get them Spencer Fano because Taylor Decker's getting up there in age. Their O-line was not great. It was banged up. It's getting up there in age. They need somebody to replace Taylor Decker for the long term. So I'm going to go Spencer Fano out of Utah. And that leaves the Vikings to get their corner and Avion Terrell. They need corner. Very similar to how the Rams and Dolphins need corner. I think it's their most blatant need. Like the website has running back. I think they're okay not getting running back here. It says they need center. I think they're okay not getting center. They need corner. Avion Terrell falls right to them at 18. Panthers at 19. They need help at linebacker desperately, in my opinion. CJ Allen seems like a little bit of a reach at 19, but I just think with what the Panthers need, it's not actually that bad of a reach to get a guy like CJ Allen. I could see them going with one of the interior guys and Caleb Banks or Caden McDonald or even Kenyon Sadiq, but I think CJ Allen is actually not as much of a reach as maybe this website projects. Cowboys at 20. I think they need pass rush help. They got Sony Styles at 12. They need pass rush. They don't have it without Micah Parsons or even DeMarcus Lawrence. Best pass rusher on the board, TJ Parker. Pittsburgh at 21, I've continuously given them and mocked them Denzel Boston. They don't have anybody to throw the ball to, not named DK Metcalf. And whoever your quarterback's going to be, he needs somebody not named DK Metcalf to also throw the ball to. I like Denzel Boston. Chargers at 22, I'm going to continue giving them Ione as long as he's on the board. Vega, Ione, I think is how you... I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but the Penn State guard, clearly the best interior O-line. That is so obviously what the Chargers need is interior O-line. It's the perfect fit. Eagles at 23, Kenyon Sadiq. Dallas Goedert's a free agent. He's getting up there in age. They need some newness to that offense. Like they keep running it back, and the offense. Now you could blame the coordinator, whatever, Patullo. Their offense needs some update. Let's just say it like that. And Kenyon Sadiq is the best tight end on the board, and I think to get him at 23 is great value because a team like the Panthers could get him at 19, a team like Tampa could get him at 15, so for him to fall at 23 I think is great value for the Eagles. Browns at 24, once again I am going to go with Caden Proctor. He is a left tackle. They need left tackle because they have Conklin at right tackle, but they don't got a lot at left tackle. Caden Proctor to the Browns. Bears at 25. Now, I've consistently given them Caden McDonald at 25. However, Caleb Banks has made it to them. Normally, he's gone to the Jets before. He's gone to the Vikings in some of my mock drafts. But he's available. So I'm actually going to have the Bears go Caleb Banks instead of Caden McDonald, just as the slightly better, maybe, interior D-line. Again, I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to college. I'm focused more on drafting positions when I'm doing my mock drafts and not necessarily like Banks and McDonald. I don't know who's better, but I think with both of those on the board, the Bears take a D lineman, and Banks has a higher rank in ADP, so I went with him. That's pretty much that. Bills at 26. Once again, Casey Conception. They need some juice on that offense. Right? You got Khalil Shakir, who's a great run after catch type of guy. You got Keon Coleman, who's your jump ball guy, if you still like him over there in Buffalo. But they don't got that take the top off really good receiver. That's Casey Conception. Niners at 27. This is a new pick, so I'll do a little bit of an explanation. I'm going to go Caleb Lomu to the Niners out of Utah at tackle. He plays left tackle. Trent Williams is 37 years old. We don't know how much longer Trent Williams has in the NFL, although it feels like he could play till he's 50. That's probably not actually going to happen. And I think the Niners need to think for the future because they could go with one of the 3 D linemen available. I mean, they could go Mesidor at pass rusher, but you have Michael Williams, who you drafted last year in the first round. You could go corner. I don't mind receiver for them if Conception was on the board, but I think they got to think for the future and get a guy like Caleb Lomo. I think would be great as your Trent Williams replacement. Texans at 28. I've normally given them Christian Miller as one of the better D linemen on the board, but Caden McDonald made it to them at 28 because the Bears got Caleb Banks at 25. So I'm going to go Caden McDonald. There's no lineman interior-wise worth taking here at 28 if you're Houston. And if they can't go O-line or even running back, their next biggest need is interior D-line, the one thing they actually kind of need on defense. It's crazy to say that because their defense is one of the best in football. But they could use help on that interior, so Caden McDonald as the best interior makes sense. Rams at 29. I think they go O-line. They could go Ty Simpson at quarterback. They could go Brandon Siss at corner and double up on corner because they took Jermod McCoy in with their other first-round pick that they got in the Falcons trade. But I am going to have them once again going O-line and going Monroe Freeling. I think I've had them get Lomu before, but he's obviously off the board, so they settle for Freeling as the next best tackle on the board. Denver at 30, another similar pick. They need help at linebacker so bad in terms of youth. It's Singleton and Dre Greenlaw, Dre Greenlaw's injured, a little bit older. Singleton's older. Bringing a guy like Anthony Hill. I mean, he's in a perfect position being on one of the best defenses and playing with one of the best D-lines in all of football. New England at 31. I like Monroe Freeling to them. He's off the board. I think they could use help at edge rusher because they did spend money. They got like Harold Landry. They have Kayvon Chason. Why not get another great pass rusher and go with Akeem Mesidor out of Miami as the best pass rusher / edge rusher on the board. And then finally, Seattle at 32, I'm going to run it back with Brandon Siss. Similar to Houston, if Seattle had to go defense, even though their defense is really good, they'd probably go corner or linebacker. And out of all the corners and linebackers on the board, the one you'd most likely take here at 32 would be Brandon Siss out of South Carolina. So that finishes the first round. So now second round. Jets at 33, they got Arvell Reese. They got Mekhi Lemon. I'm once again going to have them go Ty Simpson out of Alabama. They could get a guy like Kyler. They could maybe get like Aaron Rodgers back or Kirk Cousins. Who knows what the Jets do at quarterback. But even if you go the older route, like a Kyler, even though he's not that old, he's just not a rookie. I think it's still valuable to bring in a young guy like Ty Simpson. Let him go through the rookie process with your fellow with another first round pick, Mekhi Lemon. And I think getting a guy like Ty Simpson at 33 is actually pretty good value if you're the Jets. Cardinals at 34, once again, I'm going to have them go with Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. They took Maui Goa in the first. Their O-line needs a lot of work. I don't mind, especially with Ty Simpson off the board, I don't mind doubling up on that offensive line. Titans at 35, once again, I'm going to go with Chris Bell out of Louisville. Cam Ward needs more guys to throw to. He's got Ao Manor, That's about it at receiver. I mean, Chimere DK showed some flashes, but mainly in special teams. And then, we don't know how to feel about Restrepo. Cam Ward needs some weapons, so I like Chris Bell. Raiders at 36. I kind of reached a little bit and gave them Omar Cooper just because him and Mendoza, teammates. But I think they should, utilize this second-round pick elsewhere because they have a ton of money that they could spend at receiver. But I think they go interior D-line here with Lee Hunter or Christian Miller because you got Max Crosby off the edge, who I actually think is going to stay a Raider. I don't think Max Crosby leaves. And you need some help on that interior. You got Tyree Wilson, you got Max Crosby. You don't got a lot in the middle. So I'm going to go with it's either Christian Miller or Lee Hunter. I'll go Christian Miller out of Georgia at the interior position. Giants at 37, I'm going to once again go Keith Abney. They need corner. They got the receiver Carnell Tate in the first round. They need corner. Bad. Outside of Paulson and Debo, they don't got a lot. So I like Keith Abney at 37. Houston at 38, they got Caden McDonald in the first round. Again, Houston doesn't really have any interior offensive lineman guys to go here. You got Chase Bazantes and Connor Liu and Sam Hecht. You don't really want to take those guys at 38. They don't need another D lineman. They definitely don't need edge. They could use safety. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is the best non-front seven player available because after taking Caden McDonald, they don't need front seven. So I like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as just getting talent on Houston. Browns at 39, they got Jordan Tyson and Caden Proctor in the first round. I don't think they go Lee Hunter because they got Mason Graham last year. They could maybe go safety with Halsey and Tyneman from Oregon on the board. But I actually like them going pass rusher here. You have R. Mason Thomas on the board still. You have Gabe Jackus. I think that's how you say it. I'm not too sure. On the board still. And Zion Young. Those are three and even LT Overton. Those are four. And Romello Height. There are some good pass rushers still on the board. You need somebody next to Myles Garrett. I'll go Zion Young. I think Zion Young could be maybe the first pass rusher taken out of those four guys. Chiefs at 40. I think O-line is the pick here if you're Kansas City. But do you want to get a guy like Max Eichenacher after you took Josh Simmons? I feel like if the Chiefs go into offensive line, they want maybe a guard to play alongside Humphrey and Trey Smith, but there's none there. They could use help at pass rush, to be honest, because you got Karlaftis. That's about it. At that pass rush position, you could use some more help there. So I'm going to go Gabe Jackus out of Illinois to the Chiefs at 40 to beef up that pass rush. Bengals at 41, it's got to be defense still, right? Their defense is horrible. You could go safety, could go pass rusher because Trey Hendrickson might leave. But I'm actually going to go corner here and go Colton Hood out of Tennessee to the Bengals. Saints at 42, they went and got their edge rusher, David Bailey. I think they need help on the interior. Why not bring his Texas Tech teammate, Lee Hunter, into that interior D-line position alongside David Bailey. Dolphins at 43, they got a corner in Mansour Delane in the first round. I don't think you go with a quarterback here at 43. Right? You're not going to go Nussmeier or get a Carson Beck at pick 43. You could go receiver and go with a guy like Omar Cooper. But I'm actually going to continue to beef up the secondary for Miami. And I'm going to go with Dylan Tyneman out of Oregon to, again, continue to beef up that Miami secondary. Jets at 44, they got Arvell Reese, Mekhi Lemon, and Ty Simpson so far. So they don't need QB, they don't need receiver, and they don't need linebacker. So they could use a corner, they could use interior D-line. I'm going to go corner here because Keontae Scott is still on the board. I think he's the only corner you'd consider taking here at 44. I mean, you do have D'Angelo Pons and Chris Johnson, but I think Keontae Scott is the next best corner available. Jets need help at corner after trading away Sauce Gardner. I think it makes sense. Ravens at 45. They went ahead and got Keldrick Folk instead of Mekhi Lemon. So if they went receiver, they would probably go with R. Mason Thomas here. But because they went edge rusher, they now are going to go with Omar Cooper out of Indiana. Again, I think that's solid value for Omar Cooper. Getting him at pick 45, the Ravens need some help at receiver. Bateman didn't have the best season. It's pretty much just Zay Flowers over there. Omar Cooper had a very good year in Indiana, and I think is clearly the best receiver on the board. Bucks at 46, they went ahead and got their pass rusher in the first round. I'm going to go with Eli Stowers here, once again out of Vanderbilt. Cade Otton's a free agent. They might lose Mike Evans, so maybe they go receiver, but again, with Omar Cooper off the board, the next best guy is Jeremy Bernard, which isn't a terrible pick here at 46, but you're still adding weapons for Baker Mayfield in a guy like Eli Stowers. Colts at 47, they didn't have a first round pick, so this is their first pick. And just like my last mock draft, I'm going to have them go with Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. It's either linebacker with Jack Golday or they go safety with AJ Halsey out of LSU. I think they need linebacker a little bit more than they need safety. They also spent big money on a guy like Cam Bynum last year at safety. So they also traded for Sauce Gardner. They have Charvarius Ward, who they also paid big money in the offseason. So I think they want to shift their attention maybe towards that linebacker position. So we'll go with Jack Golday. Atlanta at 48, another team that doesn't have a first round pick. So this is their first pick. And I think they need corner. I think that's their biggest need. I think D'Angelo Pons, as I mentioned this whole thing about D'Angelo Pons' last mock draft, is he going to fall because he's 5'9"? I don't think he's going to have a drastic fall, but I think a guy like Chris Johnson could get taken over him because of his size. So I'm going to go Chris Johnson to Atlanta. They need corners outside of A.J. Terrell. You got your safeties with Bates and Xavier Watts. Billy Bowman is solid as like a safety nickel type of guy. You need another outside corner alongside A.J. Terrell. And that's what Chris Johnson can do for you. Vikings at 49. They went ahead and got their corner, Avion Terrell. You're not going to go running back here at 49. And if you're not going to go running back, I think interior O-line says they need center. Connor Lew is right here. So I'm going to go Connor Lew to the Vikings at 49 because they have Ryan Kelly, who they brought over from the Colts, but he's up there in age and he's also a expiring free agent. So bringing some youth there with Connor Lew. You're only using a second-round pick. You don't need to play him right away. You can let him sit. You let Kelly walk and then plug Connor Lew in next season. Lions at 50, they went ahead and got their tackle to replace Taylor Decker eventually. They got their Taylor Decker replacement. So now I think they should go edge rusher. And R. Mason Thomas is, according to the website, clearly the best player on the board. So I'm going to have the Lions go with R. Mason Thomas because you got guys like Aleem McNeil and Tyleik Williams in the middle. We obviously know how good Aiden Hutchinson is. You need that next guy alongside Hutchinson. So I think R. Mason Thomas makes perfect sense. Panthers at 51. I think they need help. I mean, it says here they need receiver. I don't think they go Jeremy Bernard here. D-line, you're probably not going to go with Corleone here. They already got their linebacker, C.J. Allen. I think a position they could use is safety. They have Trayvon Merrick, who's kind of that strong safety, play close to the line of scrimmage guy. You need more of that free safety pass coverage safety. So I'm going to go A.J. Halsey to the Panthers at 51. Packers at 52. Once again, I'm going to go Caleb Tiernan. They have Zach Tom at right tackle. They drafted Jordan Morgan, who looks like he's going to be like their right guard or something like that. They need a left tackle. Right? They haven't had a left tackle since David Bakhtiari. I think he played left tackle. Caleb Tiernan plays left tackle. He's the best left tackle on the board because Ian Ocker, Blake Miller, they play right tackle. Caleb Tiernan's a left tackle. So that's why I have him going to the Packers. Pittsburgh at 53. Last time I had them go D'Angelo Pons. We're going to switch that around. They need some tackle help. I know they took a tackle in the first round last year. I know they took a tackle in the first round 2 years ago, but it still seems like a tackle is a very realistic possibility for Pittsburgh. And they're not in the second round. They're not in the first round. So you're not taking a tackle in 3 straight first rounds. You're taking this one in the second round. I'm going to go Max Ihanaker. Ihanaker, something like that, from ASU. with your second round pick because it seems like there's actually a real chance they get another tackle high in the draft. Speaking of tackles, Philly, they got their tight end to replace Dallas Goedert. I'm going to have them go with Blake Miller out of Clemson. He plays right tackle. It doesn't say they need tackle, but we don't know how much. Lane Johnson's probably going to play next year, but we don't know how much longer Lane Johnson's going to play. We don't know how healthy he can be. They need some reinforcements because when Lane Johnson was out, that Philly offense was terrible, right? And you need to make sure that you got your future replacement for Lane Johnson, and Blake Miller is the best right tackle on the board. Chargers at 55. Last time I had them take Gabe Jacas because they need some pass rush because outside of Tuli Tuipulotu, it's just old Khalil Mack. And they still could go with Overton or Romello Height here. But I'm going to have them go more on the interior of the defensive line and go with Dante Corleone out of Cincinnati. They don't really have a lot. They lost Poona Ford, I believe, to the Rams. I think Poona Ford went to the Rams. Because Poona Ford's a good player. Yeah, they lost Poona Ford to the Rams. They don't really have a lot on that interior D-line. Corleone, I think that's good value at 55. The Jags at 56, this is going to be a repeat pick. I'm going to go Chase Bizantis. They need help on that interior offensive line, especially at the guard position. He is clearly the best guard and clearly the only guard you take here at 56. Bears at 57, they got their interior D lineman in Caleb Banks. I think this is either a pass rusher or a safety. I guess they could go linebacker. So it's probably Josiah Trotter if they go linebacker, Kamari Ramsey if they go safety, or LT Overton / Romello Height if they go pass rusher. Their safety room is Jaquan Brisker and old Kevin Byard. So I'm gonna go with Kamari Ramsey to the Bears at 57 once again. Niners at 58. I had them go with Elijah Surratt last draft just because he was the best receiver on the board. But you know who's now on the board? Jeremy Bernard. They need help at receiver. It's pretty much just Ricky Pearsall and then a bunch of bridge depth guys. You got your offensive lineman in the first round, and now you can get a receiver. It says they need edge rusher. I don't think they do. They have Michael Williams they took in the first last year. You still have Nick Bosa. They could go safety, but with Kamari Ramsey off the board, that's probably not going to happen. So I like Jeremy Bernard to add to that receiver room because it's not Ayuk and Debo anymore. It's just Ricky Pearsall. So you need to add something to that. I guess you have Jawan Jennings too, but he might leave. Who knows? Houston at 59. They got their D lineman and they got the safety. This is where they finally can go offensive line here. It still might be a bit of a reach, but they just need to add to that O-line. CJ Stroud was out there struggling, out there running for his life behind that offensive line. So I'm going to go Sam Heck out of Kansas State to add to that Houston offensive line that is in desperate need of help. Bills at 60, they went ahead and got Casey Conception. Their two biggest needs this offseason is receiver, pass rusher. There's two very good pass rushers on the board. I'm not going to think twice. I'm going to go LT Overton to the Bills at 60. Rams at 61, they got a corner, they got a tackle. You're not going to go any of the quarterbacks here at 61 if you're the Rams. They could double up on corner and get a guy like D'Angelo Pons, but I think a big issue with the Rams corners is their size. So I don't know if D'Angelo Pons is the right guy for that. And they don't really, it doesn't say they need help at the linebacker position, but I think they could always use help at the linebacker. They have Omar Spates and Nate Landman. Why not add Josiah Trotter to the linebacker room? He's probably the best player that they could actually use because they don't really need pass rush. They have Byron Young, Jared Verse. They're fine at that. They could use a little bit at that linebacker room. Broncos at 62. They went and got Anthony Hill at linebacker. There's not a center you take here at 62. You could go Jadarian Price, but I think they just run it back with Harvey and maybe even bring J.K. Dobbins back. You could go linebacker, but with Josiah Trotter off the board, you probably won't. Plus, you just took Anthony Hill. I'm going to have them go tight end here, and I'm going to go Max Clare out of Ohio State. You have Evan Ingram, but he wasn't the best. He's also up there in age. Greg Dulcich is no longer a Bronco. I think they need help at that tight end position. They just need weapons for Bo Nix. So I like Max Clare. I think they could very well go receiver in the third round. Patriots at 63. I've had them take Romello Height, like get pass rush help, but they got a pass rusher in the first round because they didn't go tackle. Now I think they go tackle. And I'm going to have them go Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. Iowa offensive linemen seem to be a pretty safe bet, right? Tight ends, linemen from Iowa seem to do pretty good. He's the best tackle available, the only tackle you take here at 63. I think it's a good fit. And then finally in the second round, Seattle at 64. Once again, I'm going to go with Deontay Lawson out of Alabama. You're not going to go edge rusher. I don't think they double up on corner. You don't need a running back, especially if you bring back Kenneth Walker, which I think they end up doing. You don't need interior D-line. You could go receiver, but I feel like Deontay Lawson just is a little bit more helpful for them than a guy like Elijah Surratt. Now we can move on to the third round. And I know I haven't done any third round mock drafts yet, but I am going to go through this a little quick just because I don't want this to be a super long video. Cardinals at 65, they got their tackle, they got their guard. I'm going to have them go Romello Height. They signed Josh Sweat in free agency, but outside of Josh Sweat, you have Zaven Collins, who hasn't necessarily worked out fully for the Cardinals. I think Romello Height at 65 is a steal, and pairing him alongside Walter Nolan and Josh Sweat, I think is great. Tennessee at 66, I think this is where we see D'Angelo Pons go. I don't think you can let him fall that far. Tennessee I forgot to look at Tennessee's picks. They got their edge rusher in Ruben Bain. They got their receiver in Chris Bell. And now they get their corner in D'Angelo Pons. Raiders at 67, I'm going to have them. I didn't have them go Omar Cooper in the first round or in the second round, but I will have them go Elijah Surratt in the third round. Elijah Surratt's a third round receiver talent. Omar Cooper's a second round receiver talent. It would feel like a shame for the Raiders to not draft one of Mendoza's two college receivers that he had such a good season with, and even 2 seasons with. So I'm going to go Elijah Surratt. Eagles at 68. They got their tight end to replace Dallas Goedert. They got their tackle to replace Lane Johnson. Now they can finally maybe go after more of positional needs. So I'm going to have them go edge rusher and go Derek Moore out of Michigan. It would be him or Josiah Josephs. But I think edge rusher makes a little more sense than a corner like Chandler Rivers for Philly. Houston at 69. I actually had them take this player with their second round pick, but he somehow fell to the third in this mock draft. I'm going to go Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame. They have Woody Marks, and maybe they spend money on free agency at the running back position. Who knows? But I am going to have them go with Jadarian Price. Browns at 70. They got their receiver. They got their tackle. They got their pass rush. They need help on the interior O-line. I'm going to have them go with Jake Slaughter. I know he plays center. They might not need center. They just need help on the interior of that offensive line. Jake Slaughter, I know he didn't play guard in college, but I'm sure there's a chance he could play guard in the NFL. I'm not too familiar with Jake Slaughter. I know the Browns need help on that interior offensive line, and I know he's an interior offensive lineman. Commanders at 71. They got Caleb Downs with their first round pick. Their 2 biggest needs are probably safety and edge rusher. They got their safety, and now they get their edge rusher in Josiah Josephs. They also could go corner, but I think they'd rather go with Josiah Josephs here at 71 than Chandler Rivers at 71. But I could see either one of those two going here to Washington. Cincinnati at 72. They got their interior D lineman. They got a corner. I actually do think Trey Hendrickson's going to leave, but even if he doesn't, you still need someone next to Trey Hendrickson. So I'm going to go Anthony Lucas to either be your next Trey Hendrickson and your Trey Hendrickson replacement, or play alongside Trey Hendrickson. So that's 3 straight picks for the Bengals on defense, because they really need to hit on these defensive draft picks. because they're paying so much money on their offense that they need cheap, good players on defense. And if you can hit on these draft picks on the defensive side of the ball and have them be really good on their rookie deals, that can allow you to continue to pay all your offensive players and actually field a good defense for once. New Orleans at 73, they got their Texas Tech D-line duo with Bailey and Hunter. They need some receiver help, so I'm going to have them go Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. It's just Chris Olave, really, that they're throwing that Shuck is throwing the ball to. Zachariah Branch, I think, is very good value at 73 as just a really fast guy that can really space up and open the field for Chris Olave. I think it's a good fit. After helping out that D-line, they can get that playmaker in Zachariah Branch. Chiefs at 74, they went ahead and got Jeremiah Love at running back, Gabe Jacas at pass rusher. Still not really an offensive lineman you take here. I don't think you go Markel Bell at 74. I don't think you go Keelan Rutledge or Billy Schroth here either. Chris Jones is getting up there in age. He needs some running mates as well. I'm going to go Dominic Orange out of Iowa State. Kind of just a best player available type of pick as well. But I think it's also a need for Kansas City too. Miami, 75. They got their corner. They got their safety. Their secondary is all good. This is where the next quarterback goes off the board. It's Garrett Nussmeier going to Miami. Miami could add a quarterback. They could get a Kyler. They could get a Kirk Cousins, a Aaron Rodgers, a Malik Willis. Who knows? But at 75 in the third round, even if you sign a guy like Malik Willis or sign a guy like Kirk Cousins if he becomes available, it's still not bad to have a rookie that you took in the third round. So I like Nussmeier going to Miami at 75. Pittsburgh at 76. They got their receiver. They got their tackle. They can now go corner. They don't take D'Angelo Pons, and instead they beef up that offensive line. And now there's two pretty good corners here. I'm going to go Dalen Everett, a little bit bigger of a corner, a little bit more NFL size out of him. But again, as I said before, when there's two guys at the same position, very similar, I'm just going to take someone, and it's more of a I think they take corner here, not I think they take Dalen Everett. Tampa at 77. You know who also needs corner? Tampa Bay. They got their pass rusher. They got their K-Dot replacement in Eli Stowers. I think they either go receiver here or corner. I think corner is a bigger need than receiver. So Chandler Rivers doesn't fall that much further down the board. He goes to Tampa Bay at 77. Indy at 78. They got Jack Golday with their second round pick. There's not a safety you take here. You already got your linebacker. I don't think they go Carson Beck at 78. You need help on interior D-line next to Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. So why not go with Darrell Jackson Jr. out of Florida State? Because those guys, they're good, but they're at least DeForest Buckner's getting up there, and he had a big injury, I'm pretty sure, towards the end-ish of the season, so maybe you want some reinforcements and youth with Darrell Jackson Jr. Atlanta at 79, they got their corner and Chris Johnson in the second round. Just like they need corner, they also need receiver because it's just Darnell Mooney and Drake London. Michael Penix needs more guys to throw to. It says they need tight end. I could see them just keeping Kyle Pitts, so I don't think they go Jack Endries or Michael Trigg. I think they focus on receiver with Skylar Bell or CJ Daniels. I'll just go CJ Daniels out of Miami to Atlanta at 79. Baltimore at 80. They got their edge rusher in Keldrick Folk. They got a receiver in Omar Cooper. Next up on their needs is either interior offensive line, but again, do you go Keelan Rutledge at 80? It's a possibility. They could go Keelan Rutledge. And then if you want to look on the interior D-line, it's just Skylar Gill-Howard. You're definitely not taking Skylar Gill-Howard at 80. I think you're more likely to take Keelan Rutledge here. So I'm actually going to go with Keelan Rutledge. Didn't think I'd take Keelan Rutledge to Baltimore at 80, but the Daniel Falele has not been good. We all know how Ravens fans feel about him. They need some help at that guard position. There's not really guys worth taking at their other picks, but I think Rutledge isn't too bad of a reach, especially because they're not going to go Endries or Trigg. They're not going to go Jonah Coleman or Emmett Johnson. I don't think they go corner, although they maybe could. They don't need another receiver. It just, with who's available, it's actually not that bad of a reach, I think, for the Ravens to get Rutledge at 80. Jacksonville at 81, they got Bizantis with their second round pick, and they are going to go with Jack Endries at tight end. Because who's their tight end? Brenton Strange? Strange isn't bad. I don't hate Strange. But again, they need interior offensive line. They already got Bizantis. You're not going to go Jagger Burton at pick 82. You could go with a Devin Moore, but I think they mentioned Travis Hunter's going to be full-time corner, so maybe you stay away from corner. Or they don't need corner, sorry, that's Minnesota. They need safety. But the next safety is Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. I think Endries makes more sense to pair alongside Brenton Strange. Now the Vikings at 82, they don't need corner. They got Avion Terrell. They don't need center anymore. They got Connor Lew. But they could use a running back because it's old Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason and Ty Chandler at that running back position. You got two pretty good running backs here that make sense at pick 82 and Jonah Coleman and Emmett Johnson. I'm going to go Jonah Coleman to the Vikings at 82. Panthers at 83. A team in a very interesting position because I don't think they need a tight end. I don't think they take a receiver in the third. I don't think they go halfback. They could go corner and Devin Moore, but I think their corner needs is more shifted to interior because they got Horn and Jackson, who are pretty good outside corner duo. They probably need a slot guy. That's not Devin Moore. Again, don't need a receiver. Probably don't go another edge rusher because they took 2 edge rushers in day 2 last year. So I'm going to have them. It may be a bit of a reach, but I think they need help on that interior D-line. They have Derrick Brown as one of the best interior D linemen in the league. But outside of that, they don't really have a lot. So I'm going to go Skylar Gill-Howard out of Texas Tech. I don't love the pick, but I just think with who's available, it's either him or Devin Moore. But I just don't think they need Devin Moore with Horn and Jackson. I think they need a slot guy, not an outside corner. Packers at 84, however, very much could use an outside corner, so I'm going to have them go Devin Moore out of Florida. They haven't really... The Keyshawn Nixon, he's wishy-washy. I think they could use some reinforcement on that outside corner position, and Devin Moore makes perfect sense here at pick 84. Steelers at 85, they got their receiver. They got a tackle once again. They got a corner. I'm going to have them go with Carson Beck out of Miami. I know they got Will Howard, and who knows if they bring Aaron Rodgers back. But we haven't seen a lot from Will Howard. Why not have some quarterback competition there with Will Howard? Bring in Carson Beck. 2 very good college quarterbacks. One of them's got to work out, right? It's what the Browns are trying to do currently. Why not the Steelers try and do it as well? Chargers at pick 86, they got their interior lineman in Vega, Ione. They got an interior D lineman in Dante Corleone. Didn't mean the rhyme there. And you know what? Why not add some more, I think, D-line help? They got Corleone. I think they need some more pass rush. Because, again, you got Tuli Tuipulotu, who I really like, and he's young. But next to him is Khalil Mack, who's old. You got Ione out of Penn State. Why not get Danny Dennis Sutton, also out of Penn State? We're almost done. We're at 87. Dolphins at pick 87. They got corner. They got safety, and they got quarterback. They need receiver. They just released Tyreek Hill. They just have Jalen Waddle, and I guess Malik Washington. I'm going to go Skylar Bell out of UConn to Miami. Next, we have the Jags back at 88. They got a guard. They got a tight end. I'm going to have them go linebacker here with Jacob Rodriguez, mainly because they have Devin Lloyd and Foyesade Oluokun. That's a great linebacker duo. They don't need a linebacker. Devin Lloyd is a free agent. I could very easily see a different team giving Devin Lloyd a really big contract to pry him away from Jacksonville. And if that were to happen, the Jags very well could need a linebacker next to Oluokun. And Jacob Rodriguez, I think, is the perfect guy to do that. Bears at 89. They got their D lineman. They got their safety. Another team that I think needs a linebacker. So I'm going to go Kyle Lewis out of Pitt. You definitely would have loved Jacob Rodriguez there to Chicago. So maybe Bears fans want Devin Lloyd to stay in Jacksonville because maybe that increases their chances of getting Jacob Rodriguez. I don't know. But Kyle Lewis is still a very good linebacker out of Pitt. They need somebody. You have TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, but they're on the older side as well, and they're expensive. So maybe you want some cheap youth in that linebacker room. Kyle Lewis, Pitt to the Bears at 89. Dolphins back on the clock. They have 3 third-round picks. They got their corner. They got their safety. They got their quarterback. They got their receiver. I think they need some edge rush talent. They just released Bradley Chubb. They traded Jalen Phillips at the deadline. So we're gonna go with Kerryon Crawford out of Auburn. The Dolphins, I think, because they've basically taken every other position they need some pass rush. So we'll go Crawford. Bills at 91. They got their receiver and edge rusher, their 2 biggest needs. They also could use linebacker, but with Luis and Rodriguez off the board, they're probably not going to go linebacker. You could go corner and go with, the next best corner is Traden Stukes out of Arizona. But you know who they could use? They could use a safety. So I'm going to go Zakee Wheatley because they have Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop as their safeties. I think they could use a little help at the safety position. And Wheatley is good value at 91, and I don't see where else they would go here. 92, San Fran. Another team that could use a safety. They couldn't get Kamari Ramsey. The Bears took him right before him in the second. So they're going to settle for Genesis Smith out of Arizona. They don't have a lot since Hufanga left. So they need some safety help. Rams at 93. They got a corner, they got a tackle, and they got a linebacker. They really need corner, right? That's why I think them having that 13th pick via Atlanta is perfect for them because there's so many good corners that work at pick 13. I think they double up on corner. So I'm going to go Traden Stukes out of Arizona. Back-to-back Arizona DBs. Stukes can play the slot as well, so you get your bigger body guy in Mansour Delane to play the outside, and then you get Traden Stukes to play that slot corner role. Denver at 94, they got a linebacker, they got a tight end. As I said with the Max Clare pick, Bo Nix needs more weapons. I think they go receiver here, Malachi Fields or Chris Brazil the second. I'm going to go Chris Brazil the second out of Tennessee. New England at 95, they got an edge rusher, they got a tackle. You saw how bad that offensive line was in the Super Bowl. They still need more help on that interior offensive line. I'm going to go Jalen Farmer out of Kentucky at the guard position. So they have Will Campbell. I'm trying to remember. They drafted the guard Jared Wilson. They'll have Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Jalen Farmer, and Jennings Dunker all in the last 2 drafts on that offensive line. Seahawks at 96, they got a corner, they got a linebacker. They definitely don't need 3 straight defensive picks, right? Their defense probably didn't need any draft picks to begin with. And outside of JSN, it's an old Cooper Kupp at receiver, it's Jake Bobo, and it's Rashid Shaheed. I think they could use some help at the receiver room, especially if they don't bring back Kenneth Walker, this could be Emmett Johnson, but I think they bring Kenneth Walker back, so I'm going to go Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. And now we get to the 4 final compensatory picks of the 3rd round. Minnesota at 97. They got a corner, they got a center, they got a halfback. They're 3 needs according to PFF. What else could they need? I think they need some tight end help. Outside of old man TJ Hawkinson, who's been injured, older-ish TJ Hawkinson, they need some help at the tight end room. And you can never have a backup tight end, even if Hawkinson is still on the team for the next 4 years and is good, you could still use a good backup. So I'm going to go Michael Trigg here to Minnesota at 97. Philly at 98, they got a tight end, they got a tackle, they got an edge rusher. I think they could use some corner help. Now, there's not any corners here, but I don't think Will Lee is a bad pick here at 98. So I'm going to go Will Lee out of A&M at that cornerback position. Because you got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Cooper DeJean. You need another guy on the outside because Adoree Jackson wasn't great. So Will Lee out of A&M. They could go Muhammad too, but it was kind of a toss-up between those two. Browns at number 99. They got their quarterback, they got a corner, a tackle, and a receiver. I don't think they need a halfback. They definitely don't need a tight end. They have like 5 of them. I'm going to have them double up on receiver and go Antonio Williams out of Clemson. Because again, outside of DK Metcalf, they don't have a lot. But now you have DK Metcalf. You still do have Calvin Austin. And now you bring in Denzel Boston and Antonio Williams. That's a solid receiver room, in my opinion. A solid young receiver room for Carson Beck / Will Howard. And then finally, the Jags at pick 100. They got a guard, they got a tight end, they got a linebacker. They don't need a running back. They don't need another tight end. I don't think they need receiver. Their edge rushers are really good. You know a position they could use? It says here they need a safety. Bud Clark is the best safety available, the only safety you'd even consider taking here at pick 100, even though it feels a little bit high. But I am going to go with Mr. Bud Clark out of TCU to the Jags at pick 100. I'll quickly scroll through the mock draft as a little recap. You feel free to pause whenever you'd like to see, just in case you forgot who got picked where. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. It really helps the channel out a lot. I really mean it when I say if you. But again, you don't have to subscribe. But if you enjoy this type of content, it doesn't hurt to hit that subscribe button. Helps the channel out a lot, and it helps you get notified when videos come out. Again, if you enjoy this type of content. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace.